Can you
I
see
can
this
see.
picture? Right. So
Yep.
this is how generally the XML file format will be. Okay. You can see over here. This is, of course, I have an example, taken an example I'm showing you. This is an
Okay.
XML file. Normally, XML file formats to write, generally there are some parsers we use because XML parsers will be there. So using the XML parsers, what we do, we normally write down these XML files, right? So we have to write down the XML files. So whenever we are writing down the XML files over here, this file format, whatever we are using, either it can be an XML file format or JSON file format, this file format won't be changed because there is no change happens. Normally, because even for example, from one system to another system, whenever we are forwarding, there won't be any kind of change of data which normally we happen. So that's the reason why whenever we are working on, so whenever we are working on the application, file format of XML data conversion is what something which normally we need to work on. So whatever the
Okay.
bank file generating files, because banks will will generate the files for the payments and all, right? This payments data and all, everything will be in the XML data. So to create that
Okay.
XML data and all, there are some parsers will be used by the technical team so that XML file generation will be there. So when there is any kind of data has been generated, automatically it will be converted into the XML file. That's what
Okay.
something second, which is called bank file generating feature is all about. Third one about SEPA transaction. SEPA transaction means whatever the SEPA transaction system we are going to use, we need to export the data because normally data means I'm talking about the payment data. Payment data, we need to export all this data and all everything into the daily we have to export this data. So whenever we are exporting the data to the payment SEPA transactions, hope you know it, GitHub. GitHub is one kind of repository where even if you want to maintain any kind of code management or if you want to store any kind of code, right? So all that code and all everything can be stored in the GitHub repository. GitHub is a repository system. When there is any kind of code generates and all everything will be stored in that. From that GitHub repository, when there is any kind of data you want to be accessed from the GitHub repository and all, that can be accessed by the bank files because these files are not in a smaller quantity. Because daily there are lot of daily transaction happen through SEPA systems and all everything through payments. So whenever there is any kind of transaction happens in the bank files and all, these bank file data, whatever the transformation of data we are doing, the data has to be stored in the GitHub repository. From there, generally accessibility will be done by the members, whoever the end users and all everything will be used. Normally, this SEPA transaction process system, whatever the feature are we talking about, this feature is being maintained by the backend team of the bank, not by the user. Okay, user is doing the bank payment transactions. Whatever the SEPA transaction processing and all everything will be administered and managed by the backend team of the bank. That is the third point. Fourth point, bank communication. Because whenever system accepts the request, because if you want to do any kind of payment and all, whenever system is accepting the request and all, there must be some direct communication with the bank, which normally we have to follow. Because whenever we are following, this is where bank communication system, there is a payment platform as we discussed earlier in the beginning, either it can be a P4 or P27 solution. These through this formats or these platforms, normally this banking communication and all everything will be sent to the other recipient account so that they will be receiving through the P27 or P4 solutions and all.